On this episode of Left Off the Map, Henry is travelling to a tulip farm on the northwest coast of Tassie, right up near the tip. It's a place called Wynyard. So to try and match what he's going to see, I'm going to show you a really colourful, bright recipe. The tulips you're going to see later in the show, when they come out, they're probably one of the most photographed areas in Tasmania and probably one of the most photographed tulip farms in the world. It's absolutely stunning. So I'm going to try and recreate that in a plate. The salsa I'm going to make uses kiwi fruit. Now, kiwi fruit is something that most people probably wouldn't think of as a savoury ingredient, but when you pair it with a fatty piece of fish like salmon, it actually matches really nicely. The first thing we'll do is put the salsa together, and then I'll show you how to make a really good crispy skin piece of fish. So the salsa is simple. All these ingredients that I've got here, I'm just going to chop them up, put them in a bowl and mix them. I'll show you a few little tips and tricks you can use when you're making a salsa. Cherry tomatoes. So for this salsa, I just want to chop I've got half a cup. I won't use all these. Half a cup of cherry tomatoes, and it's an assorted bunch of cherry tomatoes. So you've got some of the summer gold ones, some of the normal sort of Tom Thumb cherry tomatoes. Kiwi fruit. It's just top and tail your kiwi fruit. So the same way that you would segment an orange. So find that little line there where you've cut, and then use that as the back at the back of the knife. So that's the little area that I want to run the back of the knife down. This is very much a summer sort of lunch, even a summer dinner dish. Right, so once you've taken all of the skin off your kiwi fruit, chop it in half, and then you're just going to cut it into battens, like we normally do when we dice something. So into battens, same the other way. Sort of a mirepoix sized dice, 1 centimetre by 1 centimetre. You should be able to dice your avocado in the skin. So run your knife sort of the same, that's almost 1 centimetre. Turn it over and run it the other way. Then get a dessert spoon. Pop all that out. And your avocado is nicely diced. So your avo is going to give you that creamy flavour. And when you're cooking something or preparing a salsa like this it's really lean, so it's a really healthy salsa. You want something, you're going to have a lot of acidity in there just because of the natural acidity that's going to come in the fruit, especially if you're getting the fruit when it's nice and firm. It's not overly ripe, so you don't have a huge amount of sugar development. So next, red onion. I'm only going to use half of a red onion. So you want little thin slices that way. Cut through like we did with the kiwi fruit. Sort of take the cheek out, and then same back the other way. You're going to end up with what's called a brunoise. So really fine dice. Pop that in. My chilli, I'll use half a chilli. So I'm going to take the seeds out just because if the kids are going to eat this, we don't want them to be too hot. Half a chilli in. So I'm going to add the juice of half a lime. It's going to do a couple of things. One, it'll stop that avocado going brown. So the acidity is going to stop that oxidation of our avocado. My sweetness is going to come from palm sugar. It's going to probably 1/4 of a block of palm sugar. Now, if you can't get palm sugar, brown sugar will do. Because we're using things that are quite firm and the tomatoes themselves are quite acidic, we want to try and balance that out a little bit. So mix all that together. A good pinch of salt. Right, so our ketchup manis, it's a thing that's going to hold everything together. And a little bit of oil. We don't need a lot because we didn't add much of the lime juice. Now it's time to cook our salmon. So crispy skin salmon. We've got salmon portions here from Huon Aquaculture, my favourite salmon producer in the whole entire world. These have been already portioned up for us, skin on. And most people don't know, it's actually the scales on the fish that help you create a really good piece of crispy skin. The scales melt, and that's what creates that glass shard. So don't worry about getting scales off. These have been through the process of being gutted and filleted and broken down for you anyway. But don't worry about trying to scrape more scales off because you actually want them for a nice piece of crispy skin. A little bit of oil in our pan. This is a really well oiled and seasoned pan anyway because it's been worked to death in the restaurant. I don't want this to be super blaring hot. The first thing that's going to happen when I put this in there is it's going to buckle. The skin is going to try and move away from the heat, and we want to stop that happening. So you normally use a fish weight on top. If you don't have a fish weight, it doesn't matter. Just put your hand on top of it. It'll eventually give and flatten back out again. All right. The hand on top to hold it in place. And we're going to cook most of this. 90% of this cooking is going to be done on the skin because we want that skin to be nice and crispy. So you'll see the fish change colour as it goes through. And then for about 30 seconds, we're going to turn it over and cook the flesh side. That's called kissing the flesh. So for about, I reckon this is probably a 4-minute piece of fish, 4 to 5 minute piece of fish. 4 of those minutes are going to be on the skin, half of a minute's going to be on the flesh. All right, that's been flipped and it's had 30 seconds. That's medium rare, which is what I want it to be. You can see it's still got that little pink blush in the middle. That's going to keep cooking when I take it off the heat. So I'll take that off, let it rest, and just let it cook through while it sits there. It's only going to rest for about a minute while I get my herbs for this salad. Just want to pick the leaves. I don't want to go too hard on the mint because it can be overpowering a little bit. Coriander, just tear that. Then stir. So we've still got those fresh herbs that have just been added. So they're going to be vibrant, they're going to have a great smell. They're going to break down, start to go slimy. You see all those beautiful colours in that salsa. And like I said before, there's enough salsa there for, if you were really pushing, you probably get 4 portions out of this. Fish on top. A little bit of salt to finish. And that's my kiwi and salmon salsa, trying to link into what we're about to go and see now with Henry and Scott Rankin as they go and have a look at the beautiful tulip farm on the northwest coast of Tassie in Wynyard.
Scott, this is overwhelming, the colours here. It's just incredible. It's so vibrant.
Yeah, amazing. And, you know, it's just here for a moment and then gone. It's like, what is nature? What is that?
Yeah, far out. I wish I could hang around. You did an event here a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, well, it's really the Roberts Thompson's family, but we kind of help. And we do concerts in sheds, and then we did over in the cover crop there, we had a kind of combination of talking about soil and violinists and guitarists and things in the kind of a crop circle.
Oh, wow.
It's a big event every year. If you can bring people into the kind of world of the tulips and what's in the soil, then they're coming to music, they're coming to see the colours, and then they're understanding something about the hard work that goes into making this happen. And so it brings city and country together, which is really great.
Yep.
But it's what David does. It's his passion. And he went to art school and he's also a farmer, and and here he is, David, in the soil, working away. David, Henry.
G'day, David. How you going?
Yeah, g'day.
Heard a lot about you.
Yeah.
So what's your role here, David?
So this is my family farm.
Yeah.
So a bit of a jack of all trades, where not only do I plant the tulips, do the real farm work, the tractor work and things, but also organise and run the tourism side of things.
So there's a fair bit to growing these things. You're a bit of science involved.
Yeah, definitely. Nature's very good at growing plants, but when you start growing them in monocultures like this and you're going for optimal production, then a bit of science helps.
Got to fine-tune things a bit. And are you farming just tulips here?
No, we're farming a whole range of crops. We farm several bulb crops, actually. So we're most well known for the tulips, but we also do Dutch iris, lilium bulbs are our other 2 big bulb crops, hyacinths, and we do just a few alliums, ornamental alliums, and daffodils as well.
Okay, so specialising in bulbs and flowers, that's the...
Yeah, that's our specialty, and then we do some, more regular crops as well.
Okay, cool. Thanks very much for your info, David. Really nice to meet you, and all the best. Yeah, doing a great job.
Thank you.
we better have a look at these tulips.
Yeah, we better.
Yeah.
Henry and Scott take a quick trip down the road from the Tulip Farm to Table Cape Lighthouse, atop a sheer cliff face overlooking Tasmania's Bass Strait.
G'day, Michael.
G'day, how are you, fellas?
Really good. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks, good.
It's good to meet you.
Yeah, pleasure. Yeah.
Scott.
Scott, good piece to meet you, Scott.
Thanks for having us. So tell us a little bit about this lighthouse.
Well, this lighthouse has been here for 131 years, you know, and it still goes every day. And when the sun goes down, the light comes on automatically. And it is automated with electricity, and there is battery backup in the basement, so if the power goes off, it keeps going. So it all works.
Can we have a tour?
Well, if I've got the time, I might squeeze you in.
That'd be great.
Come on.
Cheers.
Okay, so we'll climb the 70 steps, very easy steps, very solid. All the ironwork and lighthouse equipment all was shipped out from Birmingham. There's well over 200,000 bricks, and a lot of people reckon there's probably 300,000 bricks in the lighthouse. And the way they're laid is called English bond. There's no cavity in the wall, held together with concrete, so it's a very solid structure. There's no cracks in it at all. The steel beam above your head, that sort of holds the weight and sort of steadies the place. And they started work on this lighthouse in January 1888. And the 1st of August in the same year, they turned the light on.
Wow.
At 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So it took them 7 months to build this lighthouse.
I'm actually surprised how quick that is. Like,
That's right.
It's a hell of a structure.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll venture up a bit further, and I'll tell you a little bit more just up here.
Great.
Come with me.
Scott, I'm pretty sure I am scared of heights now. Oh my God.
Look out.
That is breathtaking, isn't it?
Yep.
You don't expect it from a 25-metre tower, do you?
No, but I mean, the cliff off the edge, it doesn't make it feel like a 25-metre tower.
In the last few weeks, there's been quite a few whales bobbing around out here in Bass Strait. And you do get pods of dolphins, big schools of fish, and you do get eye-to-eye level flybys with sea eagles and peregrine falcons. Bass Strait is alive, there's no doubt about that. There's things happening all the time.
Incredible. Yeah, cool. Well, thanks for having us, Michael.
No
It's
worries
been
at all.
great. Cheers.
No worries, good on you.
Yeah, you're
Welcome
really
anytime.
good storyteller. It's good.
Good.
If you ever do get down to the beautiful tulip farm at Wynyard, the one thing you will notice is there's not a lot of food vendors around that area. So I'm going to show you how you can make a little packed lunch that you can take with you to somewhere like that. It's a little bit gourmet, and you can take it anywhere around where you are. It's basically potted meat. So pates, rillettes, potted meats, all rely on the same sort of theory of preserving meat. We're going to use a meat that's been preserved already. So cold smoked salmon is going to be the base of our pate, and then all these little ingredients here I'm going to add into it. So first thing, and there's really, I'm going to try and make up some reason why this is a recipe and it's really difficult. It's not. Everything goes in there and you mix it up. Because most preserved meats are going to already have a salt component to them, they're going to use salt to preserve them in some way, whether it's been through a brine beforehand or it's an actual salted meat. Just be careful on your seasoning. And if you're going to add, I'm going to add a little bit of caviar to mine. If you're going to add that caviar, remember that's going to be quite salty as well. So don't season until the very end, because that's the one thing that probably people get wrong with potted meats is they're over-seasoned. All right, smoked salmon, we've got 200 grams. I'm going to chop it up a little bit just to make it easier to get into the little food processor. So just roughly chop it. pop that in. You want this, if you can get a little food processor that you can get 3/4 full, that's about the, I was going to say fulledness, but I'm pretty sure that's not a word. That's about the volume of food that you want in the food processor. If my little girl was here, she'd growl at me for saying fulledness. All right, creme fraiche or mascarpone or sour cream, some sort of high-fat cream. Now, if you want to, normally people will use creme fraiche or creme fraiche because it's a little bit acidic. I'm going to use lemon juice to balance that out. I'm also going to use the lemon zest. So you get a microplane. Little tip for if you're using a microplane, a lot of people do that. Don't do that because one, it's going to fall everywhere and you're not going to be able to control where it goes. And you don't really know how much of the zest you've taken and how much of the pith you've taken. So if you turn it up the other way and turn your microplane over, I can pull it back like that and then I can see where to go next. And that way I'm just taking the zest and not the pith, and the pith is really bitter. The white is really bitter. So this way I'm just getting that yellow zest with all the essential oils, and it collects on top of my microplane. So I can see how much that I've got and I can control it a little bit better. We go through, get as much of the lemon zest as you can. If you wanted to add, this is a very basic recipe, if you wanted to add capers or cornichons to this, even if you wanted to add olives, herbs, chives, anything like that, you can. So then you can just push that in and you've controlled, you know, the exact amount of zest that you've got in there. Juice, I'm going to start with the juice of half a lemon and then I'll add if I need to. Mustard and smoked salmon is an awesome combination, so I'm going to go about I'll start with half a tablespoon of mustard, some dried tarragon leaves. You can use fresh tarragon leaves if you can get hold of fresh tarragon leaves. A little pinch of salt at this stage, not a lot, it's a really small amount. I'm going to season later, remember. And that's it. You can put caviar in at this point and blitz the caviar up, but I think that you kind of lose the whole purpose of caviar, which is those little pops that you want to get, so you're going to leave to put on top. So we'll give this a blitz. And this is where you get to decide how chunky or how smooth you want it to be. If you're looking for a rillette, it's going to be quite chunky. If you're after a pate, it's going to be a lot smoother. All right, so at this point you're tasting to check for seasoning and really just to make sure you've got the right amount of lemon, so the right amount of acidity. So salt and acidity is what I'm looking for. Seasoning is good. So you saw how small the amount of salt that I put in there beforehand, and that's enough. It does need a little bit more lemon juice, a little bit more acidity. It's quite fatty, which is great, but I want it to cut through that a little bit. So I'm going to use the rest of the lemon, so the juice of a whole lemon. No more salt. Maybe just a touch more mustard. Just put the remaining amount of that in there. All right, that is our pate done. Like I said, it's very, very, very simple. It's a good base pate. You can then create more flavours on top of that. Like I said, fresh herbs, cornichons, capers, those sorts of things. Pop it into your jar. It is, after all, a potted meat. And this will keep for a couple of weeks in your fridge because you've got an already preserved meat. And this is where you can either put some of the little caviar pearls on top of that jar, or you can take the caviar with you and spoon some of it onto a cracker and then put a little dollop of the caviar on top. It's completely up to you. So you can seal that up. If you've got your crackers still in your box, you've got your box of crackers, you've got your sealed pate, and if you go to a place like the Tulip Farm, where Henry went, you can take this with you, sit amongst the tulips, and have a bit of a gourmet snack to end your day.